What is going on, guys? So today I'm going to talk to you about some misconceptions about the military. Now, some of these misconceptions are going to be really positive misconceptions, but it's actually not true, right? And some of them are going to be negative misconceptions that are not true. So before I get into that, if you guys haven't ever checked out my store at shopmw.store, the link is down in the description. This is one of the gold Army Paint t-shirts. But we're gonna cover some of the things, I'm just gonna go through them. You know, there's not gonna be any kind of crazy format. I think there's like 8 different misconceptions, so if you wanna stick around for all of them. The first thing is something that I've talked about a little bit in some videos before. When you join the military, a lot of people look at people in the military and they're just like, oh, you know, that person, don't wanna mess with them. They're in whatever branch of service. They're in the Army, they're, you know, in the Navy, they're in whatever. Like, don't mess with them. They can hurt you. They can really beat you up. They know how to use their fists, right? No, I would say that is a really big misconception. That's something that you hear a lot. A lot of people are like, oh, don't mess with him, don't mess with her. They're in the military, they know how to beat you up. And I talked a little bit about that in like a bulk video that I did about my officer training and stuff. And for the Army, I don't really know how much combatives training that they do in the Navy or in the Air Force. I know the Marines probably does a little bit more than the Army. Sometimes in the Army you get combatives level 1 certified, which is basically just straight from the Army, is basically teaching you to stay alive long enough, like in a hand-to-hand combat situation, not to take out the person, but to wait until you have a buddy come and take out the person. So they're basically teaching you to stay alive so that your friend can come and save your life. The next big misconception is kind of along the same lines, and I would say that it's definitely true and not true at the same time, right? So, and it's about rifle marksmanship, and you know, a lot of people look at soldiers specifically. A lot of people might look at Marines. I'm not going to speak for the Marines, but I would say that, you know, I know that not every Marine job is a combat-related job. Now, if you're talking about infantry soldiers, if you're talking about maybe some Rangers, if you're talking about some Special Forces guys, this would definitely, I would say, be true. But for 90% of the rest of the military that aren't in combat MOSs, a lot of people don't get that much weapons training. You do your annual weapons qualification, you pass, and then you're good. You don't really mess with the weapon too much. You might go into FTX, you might fire some blanks or something, but you're not doing that much extensive weapons training. You might only mess with the M249 just every now and again, maybe once every year or two, just not all that often. And a lot of people look at just people in the military all across, right? So all branches, and they're like, yeah, that person, they just must really like guns. They must know everything about weapons. They're probably some kind of crazy sharpshooter. They got some crazy awesome military training that they could just teach me something, right? Again, depends on your MOS, but in 90% of the cases, you know, I would say in the military, it's really would just come down to the person of interest. Like, so who are you talking about? Are they really interested in weapons? Are they really interested in them and trying to learn all the different things about it? Whenever you actually get some training, do they really pay attention? So it really comes down to the individual. Sometimes there might be people at the range and they just absolutely suck, right? Some people just maybe straight out of basic training, they are just barely qualifying, right? And I would really say that like the Army's qualification isn't too difficult, right? My first time shooting it, I failed because it was my first time shooting it, but I usually get somewhere around the expert range or expert, right? Pretty much every time that I go and shoot. So it's difficult, but just to pass isn't really the hardest thing in the world, and you only do a few different shooting positions. You don't really learn how to shoot when you're moving unless you're in like a combat MOS and you go to a range where you're actually gonna do that. But again, most of the military, not experts on weapons. Now here's one that I think is a negative that people have, like they look at the military kind of negatively, thinking or not wanting to join because they think that the military has constant deployments. They're just being deployed all the time, which is especially not true right now because we're not in any kind of wartime situation. We're not at war with anybody. Yes, the United States military is always doing stuff all over the world. I mean, we have people all over the world all the time, even during peacetime situations like we have now. Yes, there's little flare-ups of stuff every now and again, but the military, I promise you, like, you know, you might get into a unit that deploys a lot. If you go to a specialty unit, they might deploy every like 2 years or something, but they're going to probably be shorter deployments. You're not going to every 2 years go on a super long deployment, right? Usually the more often you deploy, the shorter they are. But one of the guys that I went to basic training with about 4.5 years or so ago has been deployed 4 times right now. So he's only been in for essentially out of training for 4 years, and he's been deployed 4 times. Now obviously all 4 of those deployments aren't 9-month deployments, or else that would just be ridiculous. They're going to be shorter deployments. I don't know exactly how long they were. There might be 3 months, 4 months, 5 months, but that's more of like a rare case. Most people in the little chat group that we talked with, my basic training guys that I went to basic with, they haven't deployed, right? So it's a lot more common for you to have joined, you do your first contract and deploy once, or not deploy at all, then deploy 4 times in 4 years. Now this one regarding promotions is a misconception that I had whenever I was in the military. I did make a video on enlisted promotions recently. I think I did a pretty good job, but if you want to check that out, go ahead and check it out. But I know a lot of people think, when you look at the military, you might look at some kind of chart that says, getting promoted and you should reach this rank by this time. You should reach this rank by this time. You should reach this rank by this time. And you might join into the military and thinking that that's going to be the case. How it's basically only, based off of your time in service. Like, how long have you been in the military? This is what rank you're going to be. That's only true for the first 2 years that you're in the military. After that, it's up to you, right? So it's how hard do you want to work for that promotion? Are you doing what you need to do? Are you actually a good soldier? Are you getting good reviews, right? So whenever you reach the higher ranks in the military, whether it's enlisted and or officers, you're gonna get essentially reviewed by your bosses, right? So that's a very basic way I can say that, but essentially you're gonna get reviewed by it. It's gonna go on your file, and then whenever you look to get promoted, the promoting authority is gonna be able to look at that and see if you are essentially worthy of getting promoted. So it's not as always cut and dry and just super easy as just straight up time in service or time in grade whenever you're looking at promotions in the military. Now here's something that is a little bit funny to me. I watched it on a show just the other day. It happens in movies and things, and this is kind of one of those things that you kind of catch on to a little bit more whenever you actually join the military. And I would say that this isn't a misconception, but it's definitely true. Whenever you join the military, when you watch movies about the military, you definitely pick up on some things and you're like, that's just totally wrong. And another one of these that happened on this one TV show, and I know it happens to people whenever you're walking just around and some civilian or somebody's gonna say, they're gonna call you essentially by the wrong name. A lot of people call everybody soldiers, which is not the case. We have multiple branches, and every branch is called something different, right? So if you see a Marine, you don't say, hey, thank you, soldier, blah, blah, blah. You look at a Marine and they are a Marine, so you will call them by what their actual name. But essentially, Army, soldiers, and you got your Marines, they're Marines, right? Then you got your Air Force, your Navy, and all that stuff. So that is a misconception, something that probably people watching this would probably already know, but if you didn't know, everybody has their own specific names that they go by. And a lot of people kind of screw that up and they just call everybody soldiers because soldiers or Army is the biggest branch. People see soldiers all the time. A lot of times when we talk about the military, we're talking about the Army, right? So a lot of people have that misconception, I know, but clearing it up for those few of you who didn't know. Here's another one that I get a lot, and this kind of comes from you guys, right? So a lot of times I'll do live streams and things like that, and this can be true for a lot of other cases, but this is my example. A lot of times I'll be doing live streams and people will ask me about all these military current events and stuff, and a lot of people think that just because you're in the military, you just know absolutely everything about the military's foreign affairs, what's going on overseas. Oh, did you hear about this thing? Did you hear about this? Like, you didn't know about that? Like, aren't you supposed to be in the Army? Oh my gosh, like, how did you not know that? People in the military, every now and then we might get, briefed or told something by our commander or something, but it's not like every single day we get a briefing. I guess police officers do this. They get like a briefing at the beginning of the day of essentially any changes and stuff, any key personnel to look out for, stuff like that. They're not doing that really in the Army. I'm not sure how they do it in the deployed scenario, right? So if you're deployed, I'm not sure exactly how that goes, but as far as, most soldiers who are, over here in the United States in some base somewhere, you're not getting briefed every day on the events that's going on in the military, right? So a lot of people will think that just because you're in the military, you know everything that's going on in the military. That's not true. It's another one of those things that's pretty much up to the individual to pay attention to the news or ask questions or things like that. I've done that. I've asked, sergeant majors, I've asked really high officers, just some general questions about their opinions on certain conflicts that are going on. But that's a lot of times really what it is. Like, you have to get super high up there to actually, understand the opinions of the people who are actually going to make a difference. So that's it for that one. And then the next one that I want to cover, I've not made a video on this before, but I do want to say that this is a misconception, I think, and that is that military pay sucks. A lot of people think that when you join the military, you're just like living in poverty. It's completely not true. Like, it is really, really not true. Now, even I've talked about it a little before, maybe I'll do a video on it, but the lowest enlisted levels, like E1, E2, E3, E4, is still a pretty good paying job. A lot of people, you go online and you look at the base pay. That is the base pay, right? So that is the bottom level of what you're gonna be getting paid. And you might have other things on top of that, aka if you have children, aka if you have a spouse, aka if you're at some training somewhere and you need to get BAH, right? So you're essentially gonna get free living. Free living, let's just say on average, let's just say it's $1,200 a month. Well, $1,200 is a pretty good bit of money throughout the course of the year. That's what, like $13,000 or something like that. So whatever your base pay is, if it's $25,000, then you're getting free living. So let's just add $13,000 on top of that, so it's $38,000. Now that's not starting to look too bad. That's starting to look, like a pretty good job. And then whenever you consider, a lot of times you get free food. You don't always have to eat at the DFAC, but a lot of times you do get free food, and sometimes you might eat at the DFAC. You have the same uniform that you wear all the time, so you might need less clothes in some situations, right? And then on top of all of this, like your healthcare benefits and stuff, like not having to pay like a super crazy, ridiculous price for your healthcare is a really big deal, because a lot of people are complaining about prices of healthcare. Well, guess what? If you're in the military, it's not bad, like, at all. So when you look at the military pay, you got the base pay, then you got things that go on top of that. In my opinion, a really big misconception is that when you join the military, you're gonna get paid dirt, and you're not gonna get paid that much. You're not gonna have enough to support your family. That is one thing that pretty much the Army is gonna guarantee you, is like, they're going to give you enough to support your family. That is something that you do not have to worry about. And then on top of this stuff, like if you get, money for school and everything, you don't have to pay back student loan debt and everything. I mean, there's a lot of little benefits that add up in the military. So that is gonna be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you haven't already, check out this shirt in the description down below, or there's gonna be a link like right here at the end of the video. But that's it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, hit that like button. That'd be awesome. If you check out some more of my videos, hit that subscribe button. That would be even better. If you're not following my Instagram and Snapchat, social media links are right there. I hope you guys have an amazing freaking day, and I will see you later.